Hello everybody, my name is Bill and welcome to Old School Scares. This is our new horror channel that focuses on horror movies from the 50s through the 90s, Halloween attractions, yard haunts, all things horror. Our focus is going to be on older horror movies, specifically in that time frame I just talked about, but we'll also talk about stuff prior to that and even some of the newer horror movies. But our main focus is going to be that generation from the 50s to the 80s. The stuff that we all grew up on in the creature feature generation, all the way through the slashers. I love horror, always have, and I was very excited to start this channel for you. If you're checking this video out, hopefully you've checked out some of the videos we already created. We had a chance to get over to Halloween Horror Nights and Hallow Scream in Orlando. We have some reviews for those videos. Check out the link below and you can check those out. But what I wanted to do is cover my first horror movie, and I really wanted to focus on one of the classics. Well, I had some good fortune. I was trying to figure out what movie I wanted to cover, and I got a little bit of rain in Orlando, but being near Universal was playing some of their classic monster movies on the big screen. And not all those movies I had seen before. They had Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, The Bride of Frankenstein, Friday the 13th, the original. I had just seen Friday the 13th last year on the big screen for the first time during Halloween, but they had one of my favorite monster movies. I'm going to go out and say my favorite monster movie from the 1950s, Creature from the Black Lagoon. So that's going to be our first movie we're going to cover today. And when we talk about movies, what I want to cover is I really want to cover three things. I really want to talk about the importance of the impact of the movie, how scary it is, and then I want to talk about the acting / directing cinematography of the movie. Now, when I think about Creature from the Black Lagoon and you think about this movie came out in 1954, right? It was directed by Jack Arnold, one of my favorite monster movie directors from that time. Jack also did Tarantula, which I absolutely love. I think it's such a great, campy, fun movie, and it will definitely be a movie we cover soon. And he did The Incredible Shrinking Man, which I think is actually one of the scariest movies from the 1950s, along with Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I actually think there are genuine scares in those movies, and they do a great job with those movies. We'll cover both of those movies as well. But let's get back to Creature. Creature was, again, came out in 1954, and here's a great thing about this movie. It's 119 minutes, it's an hour and 19 minutes, excuse me, long, right? So just under an hour and 20 minutes. Thank you. I love movies just like everybody else, but if I have to watch another Fast and the Furious movie that is 2 hours and 30 minutes, I'm going to lose my mind. They don't need to be that long. They are fun, mindless entertainment. Let's make our movies 90 minutes again. We don't need 2 hour, 3 hour superhero, car chase movies. Let's get back to the good old school days where we can enjoy a 90-minute movie, walk out, and have a great time in the theater. So when I think about this movie and I think about importance, well, you can see here, I have some Creature from the Black Lagoon merchandise here. I have this mask that I absolutely love. It's a repro from the 70s plastic mask that you'd wear around with these big plastic ponchos. You'd be sweating in the middle of October in New England. They were awesome. And as a kid, the Creature was my favorite. I had a Creature from the Black Lagoon action figure. I have a newer version of one here, and I loved it. It was even more of a favorite of mine than my Star Wars stuff. Absolutely loved that character. I just think he's so iconic, and he really is one of the big four. Now, when you think about Universal, they had a ton of great monsters, right? Going all the way back to the Phantom of the Opera, but where they were kind of first known was Dracula. And we have Dracula here, we have the Mummy, we have the Invisible Man, we have Frankenstein, we have the Bride, we have the Wolfman, and we have the Creature. But if I'm being honest, and I think when most of us think of the big four for Universal, it's Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, and the Creature. Those are the ones that kind of come to mind most often. And Creature was the last of those great monster movies from Universal, right? It was the last of their classic monsters. So this is incredibly important because the Creature has been in everything. When you think about it, The Shape of Water was basically a direct reference to Creature of the Black Lagoon. You had, some version of the Gill-Man in Monster Squad. You've had the Gill-Man kind of all Saturday the 14th, which was a parody, had a version of the Gill-Man. So the Gill-Man showed up everywhere. So I say from importance, the movie and the character were incredibly relevant at the time, and they stayed relevant all along. Now let's talk about scare factor. If we go back into the 1950s, I imagine this movie was pretty scary. And it was funny when I left the theater, there's really not a lot of blood in the movie, if any blood. There's a few deaths in the movie, but there's no gore. The monster isn't overly scary, right? When you think about this movie, if it was made in 2021, the monster would have giant fangs. He would be, 7 or 8 feet tall, 450 pounds, hugely muscular. The Creature in this movie has, big, terrifying claws, right? And we'll talk about that in a second, but doesn't have big teeth. It is a gill man, right? He's probably 6 feet tall, 190 pounds. He's not a giant monster, but wow, what a great piece of movie makeup. This suit is incredible, and I love the fact that it's not over the top and it's not ridiculous. It brings a level of authenticity into the character where it feels like it could be something real, and it brings a level of creepiness. The other thing that's great in this that brings a scare factor up, and it really kind of made me think of Jaws, was the music, right? The music in this is great. It's these screeching strings that come in at a few different places, and these strings kind of are a precursor to every time you're going to see the monster. And it really does remind me of what you get with Jaws to bring that scare factor. And you do see the monster a lot in this movie for for an hour and 20 minutes. You see the monster quite a bit. So he's not hidden like Bruce was in the Jaws movies, but he is great in that experience. And seeing the music kind of play a cue in it is awesome. It really does. It amps up the scare factor. I also, I talk about that. What's the moment in that movie that's going to make you throw your popcorn? And I'll try to share that in every movie. For me, I imagine audiences in 1954. It's when that music kicked in and the gill man's hand, the live gill man, came up on the shore of the camp at the beginning. I think that was probably the throw the popcorn movie moment more than anything. And I imagine audiences freaked out. Now let's talk a little bit about the acting in the movie. There's a couple of great actors in this movie that I absolutely love. I think, when you look at this movie, there are a couple of characters that stand out like crazy, and I want to make sure I get their names right. The ones I know like crazy are, Julie Adams plays Kay. She is the female scientist, love interest of Mark and David, who are just, in my opinion, kind of two generic characters. One is driven by money, one is driven by science. They're both scientists. There's a love triangle between the three of them and Kay. I find that the least interesting part of the movie, if I'm being honest with you. There are scenes that just don't feel very authentic when Mark just snaps out of nowhere when he knows that David and Kay have been dating and that they're an item, and he still acts like, kind of a petulant kid. It really does take me out of the movie. It's probably the least authentic part of the movie for me. And again, maybe I'm crazy, and again, it's a different time frame, but it just didn't feel very authentic. But Kay's performance is great. Julie Adams is beautiful. She looks incredible in the movie. She just does a great job of portraying her character as a very strong female character in the 50s, which wasn't always the case. Even with female scientists in the 50s, they weren't always portrayed as strong. I think she does a great job as that character. But my favorite character in the movie is Lucas, the boat captain. And he is played by, I want to make sure I get his name right, it is Nestor Pavia. And he did an absolutely outstanding job in the movie. He kind of came across a little bit of as a caricature at the beginning, but by the end, he is a badass character. He is, saving the girl, fighting alongside of the main characters, and honestly not taking any crap from Mark when Mark's trying to direct him around. He has to remind him that he is the captain of the boat. I think it's a great scene in the movie. When I think about the movie overall, again, the iconic scenes, when you first see the skull hand, I'll show it to you, is awesome. The first time you see the gill man come out of the water, when the gill man is swimming with Kay and she's on top of the water, he's underneath, is probably the most famous scene of the movie, and it's absolutely stunningly shot. Jack Arnold did a great job directing this movie. The cinematography for the time is incredible, and that Universal Blu-ray that came out for the 100th anniversary of Universal with all the classic monsters has an incredible 4K transfer that looks absolutely gorgeous. If you still have a 3D TV, you can also watch it in 3D, and it looks amazing. So overall, I would say that Creature from the Black Lagoon is a phenomenal movie. It is a huge recommend for me. It is one of the seminal 50s monster movies, and I would recommend that anybody catch it if they haven't seen it yet. I'm going to give this movie a 9 out of 10. I absolutely love it. The gill man rocks. Great iconic monster. So there's the review for you. Hopefully you get a chance to check it out if you haven't so far. This is a new channel, so please hit the like and subscribe button. We're going to have new monster movie reviews all the time. We will be doing some 50 stuff pretty soon, and as we get into October, my plan is to do some rankings of some of the classic monster series, or classic slasher series, excuse me. So I want to focus on Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Nightmare on Elm Street, and give you my ranking of those movies and what I think of them. So we'll be doing that in October. But until then, please check out the channel, some of the other videos. We look forward to sharing other stuff with you, and stay scary. We'll talk to everybody soon.